It begins with a moment that changed two worlds forever. Not with a kiss, not with poetry, but with fear, ambition, and a desperate gamble for power. Rome, the unstoppable giant, had marched across continents. Egypt, once the greatest civilization on earth, now stood fragile, a jewel vulnerable to being swallowed by the rising empire. And in the middle of this storm stood two figures, a young queen fighting to reclaim her throne, and the most powerful general in the world, exhausted from war and burdened by destiny. This is not a fairy tale. It is the meeting of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, where romance was strategy, passion was politics, and a single encounter reshaped history. Before their story begins, imagine the world. It's 48 BCE. Rome is tearing itself apart in a civil war. Julius Caesar has just defeated his great rival, Pompey the Great. The Roman Republic trembles as powerful men destroy it from within. Caesar chases Pompey across the Mediterranean, seeking to end the conflict once and for all. Pompey, desperate, flees to Egypt, a kingdom ruled by a boy king and his older sister, locked in a bitter struggle for power. Ptolemy the Athenian controls Alexandria, supported by greedy courtiers. Cleopatra, the rightful queen, and his sister has been exiled. She is young, around 21, brilliant, multilingual, raised not only as a royal, but as a strategist. Yet her crown is slipping away, her future uncertain, her life in danger. When Pompey arrives, he believes Egypt will offer refuge. Instead, Ptolemy's advisors see an opportunity. If they kill Pompey, they can win Caesar's favor. So Pompey, once one of the most powerful men in the world, is murdered the moment he steps ashore. His severed head is presented to Caesar as a gesture of loyalty, but the plan fails. Caesar is horrified. This was not respect, and it was humiliation. Rome's honor has been stained. And now Caesar, the man who never forgets an insult or forgives betrayal, is in Alexandria. Egypt, already unstable, is about to become the center of the ancient world's most dangerous political contest. Cleopatra knows she has one chance left. She cannot walk into the palace openly. Her brother's forces guard every entrance. So she devises a daring plan. The legend says she wraps herself in a rug and has it carried secretly into Caesar's chambers. Whether rug or linen sack, the truth remains the same. Cleopatra risked everything to stand before Caesar. Picture the moment. Caesar, weary from war and political betrayal, finds a young queen rolled out at his feet. Not desperate, not pleading, but poised, confident, and determined. She does not offer tears. She offers partnership. Power. A vision of a restored Egypt, and a future where she stands beside him, not beneath him. What struck Caesar first? Ancient writers argue. Her intelligence? Her command of languages? Her charm? Her ambition? It was likely a combination of all. Cleopatra could speak to him as an equal, in politics, philosophy, and statecraft. In a world where leaders were often blunt instruments of power, she was a master of subtlety and persuasion. Their alliance forms quickly, not from sudden romance, but from mutual necessity. Caesar needs stability in Egypt. Grain, money, strategic position, all essential to Rome's future. Cleopatra needs her throne, her life, her destiny. They see in each other not just attraction, but opportunity. Yet this alliance sparks rage. Ptolemy's supporters cannot accept it. Alexandria erupts into civil war. Streets become battlegrounds. Caesar, now trapped in a foreign palace, commands his troops to hold the city. Cleopatra stands by him, not as a passive figure, but as a partner in war and strategy. Here, romance grows in the fire of conflict. Not gentle, not tender, but fierce. Two ambitious minds drawn together by urgency and possibility. This was not a fairy tale seduction. It was survival wrapped in passion and power. And it worked. Ptolemy's army is defeated. He drowns fleeing across the Nile, destiny swallowed as mercilessly as the enemies he once betrayed. Cleopatra is restored to the throne, not alone, but with Caesar as her ally, protector. And perhaps the only man she considered an equal in intellect and ambition, she becomes queen once more. And soon, she will become mother to Caesar's son, a child symbolizing more than love. To some, he represented a bridge between civilizations. To others, a threat to Rome's future, a sign that Caesar dreamed not of a Roman republic, but of a dynasty with an Egyptian queen. But that lies ahead. For now, imagine the palace celebrations, the torchlit nights along the Nile, Caesar seated beside the last great pharaoh of Egypt. Two worlds joining, not simply hearts, but histories. And yet beneath the celebration, danger remains. Rome whispers. The Senate grows uneasy, and across the sea, rivals sharpen their knives, unwilling to let one man reshape the ancient world. Before we continue deeper into this story of power, devotion, and destiny, if you're enjoying this journey into ancient history, where real people shape the world through ambition and courage, consider subscribing. It helps bring forgotten moments like this back to life, and your support builds this channel into a home for history lovers. Now, let's return to Alexandria, where victory has been won. But the true battle, the one that will shake Rome to its core, is only just beginning. Power has been reclaimed, but power once earned must be defended. After the dust of battle settles over Alexandria, Cleopatra stands once again as pharaoh, not by lineage alone, but by strategy, courage, and alliance with the most powerful man alive. Julius Caesar, victor of Rome's greatest civil war, now watches over Egypt, and at his side stands a queen. Many in Rome will soon fear far more than any army. This is where their story deepens, not just in affection, but in purpose. Because this was not simply love, it was legacy. Caesar remains in Egypt longer than anyone expects, nearly a year. It is a decision historians still debate. Some say he stayed for Cleopatra's beauty, others for political necessity. The truth? Likely both. Cleopatra represented something rare, a partner who did not simply stand beside power, but wielded it with her own hands. Together, they begin shaping a vision, a strong Egypt, secure and stable, tied not as a servant to Rome, but as an allied power. For Caesar, Egypt means grain to feed Rome, wealth to stabilize his political future, and a loyal monarch anchored in gratitude. For Cleopatra, Caesar represents legitimacy against rivals and protection against the constant threat of internal rebellion. But there is a deeper, subtler truth. They understood each other. Both born into worlds of deadly politics. Both betrayed by those closest to them, both believing they were destined for greatness. Their bond strengthens not in whispered gardens or palace balconies, but in council chambers, war rooms, and diplomatic meetings. Strategy binds them, ambition aligns them, and somewhere in those moments, between discussions of fleets and taxes and Rome's future, emotion grows. Cleopatra is not a passive queen watching Rome dictate her life. She travels with Caesar along the Nile, showing him the grandeur of her land. Temples carved by ancestors long before Rome existed, cities where art and mathematics flourished when Europe was still young. Caesar, proud conqueror of Gaul, sees something in Egypt that humbles even him, a civilization older and richer than his own, led now by a woman capable of guiding it. This journey becomes legendary. A royal procession that stirs myths for centuries. Musicians, scholars, priests, a display of Egyptian power and culture. Cleopatra presents not herself, but Egypt's majesty. If Caesar is Rome, she is Egypt, and together they appear unstoppable. Ancient writers speak of banquets on golden barges, sails perfumed with incense, the river shimmering like liquid bronze under torchlight. Whether embellished or true, the symbolism is powerful. Two rulers, sailing through time and empire, preparing to reshape history. Yet as they move forward, enemies form in shadows. In Alexandria, not all Egyptians welcome Roman presence. Some nobles whisper that Cleopatra has surrendered to foreign power, but she knows her position is fragile. One misstep, one failed rebellion, and she could share the fate of her ancestors who were poisoned, strangled, or erased. Her loyalty to Caesar is not submission. It is survival, and a calculated alliance to ensure Egypt's independence, not its surrender. In Rome, the rumors grow louder. Caesar's absence stirs suspicion. Senators question his judgment. Some whisper he is bewitched, not by politics, but by passion. The idea of the world's greatest general being controlled by an Eastern queen fuels their fear. Roman pride cannot accept that a woman, and a foreign one, might influence the future of their republic. What they do not understand is that Cleopatra influences through intellect, not seduction. But enemies do not care for truth. Fear needs a shape, and they give it hers. Then comes the moment that silences doubt. Cleopatra gives birth to a son, Caesarion, a child of Egypt and Rome, a symbol dangerous enough to shake an empire. For Cleopatra, this is victory, her dynasty secured, her bloodline tied to the greatest man alive. For Caesar, the emotions are complex. Roman law forbids acknowledging heirs born outside lawful Roman wives, yet he does not deny the child. He allows whispers to spread. He sees in Caesarion not scandal, but legacy. A potential ruler who could unite worlds, but Rome is not ready. Power in Rome flows through Senate halls, ancient laws, and jealous men who fear losing privilege. They see Cleopatra as a storm on the horizon, one that could wash away centuries of Roman control. So Caesar decides it is time to return. Egypt cannot hold him forever. He leaves with Cleopatra now firmly established, her throne secure, her future tied to his. Their farewell is not final. Cleopatra will soon follow him across the sea. As Caesar sails away, Cleopatra stands on the shores of Alexandria, not as a woman watching her lover depart, but as a queen assessing the next phase of her rise. Her task now is not only to rule Egypt, but to step onto the stage of Roman politics. Months pass. The relationship that began in secret now becomes a political fact. Cleopatra prepares for a journey few rulers have dared. She will travel to Rome not as a captive, not as a diplomat, but as a queen, at Caesar's side. The most powerful city in the world will look upon Egypt's sovereign with suspicion, fascination, envy, and fear. But before she leaves, she rules. She reforms the economy, strengthens fleets, restores priesthoods and temples to secure support across Egypt. Cleopatra is not simply waiting for Caesar's return. She is building a kingdom worthy of standing beside Rome. Soon the queen arrives in Rome, and history shudders. Senators glare. The elite whisper. Poets mock her. Yet ordinary Romans watch with awe. Here stands a woman unlike any they have seen. Regal, educated, confident, unafraid. Caesar honors her publicly. A golden statue of Cleopatra rises in the temple of Venus, calling her goddess, ally, perhaps even co-ruler in the vision Caesar holds for the future. But beneath admiration lies tension. Rome has tasted empire. It fears monarchs, and nothing terrifies republics more than the thought of a king returning, especially a king with a queen. Cleopatra does not shrink. She moves through Rome with quiet authority, knowing every step is a challenge to tradition. She is no visitor, she is a force. But the storm is building. Caesar's reforms, his growing power, his dreams beyond the Republic, all of it draws knives in the dark. For now, though, Cleopatra and Caesar stand victorious. Their alliance has reshaped Egypt, influenced Rome, and produced a child who could rewrite the world. But power attracts enemies, and history rarely allows greatness to go unchallenged. Stay with this story, because love may have built this alliance, but ambition will test it, and soon the world's greatest empire will strike back. We continue shortly, as power, Envy and destiny collide in the heart of Rome. Rome is a city of triumphs and daggers, a place where cheers can turn to whispers and whispers can turn to blades. When Cleopatra arrives in Rome, she does not simply visit. She challenges the very soul of the Republic by existing in its heart. The Senate watches a foreign queen walk through marble streets, not as a subject not hidden in shadows, but as a sovereign beside Julius Caesar, a man many already fear is becoming a king. This is the turning point, where admiration becomes suspicion and rumor becomes weapon. Cleopatra settles in Caesar's villa on the outskirts of the city, a place reserved for family, not foreign monarchs. It is a statement the Senate cannot ignore. To the Roman elite, she is an outsider with influence. To ordinary Romans, she is a wonder, a queen whose presence fills the city with fascination. She speaks many languages, debates philosophy, observes rituals foreign to Roman eyes, and carries herself with a regal stillness that unsettles those who mistake confidence for arrogance. Rome is the center of the world. Yet here stands a woman from the ancient East, commanding attention without raising her voice. For many Romans, this is not just unusual, it is dangerous. And then comes the statue. Caesar commissions a golden likeness of Cleopatra, placed in the Temple of Venus. In Roman symbolism, this is profound. Venus is his family's divine ancestor, his protector, his claim to destiny. To place Cleopatra there is to suggest she belongs in Rome's sacred lineage, woven into Caesar's fate. To subtle minds, the message is clear. This woman is more than a guest. She is part of a future Caesar imagines. Senators feel the ground shift beneath them. Rome is already uneasy with Caesar's power, his sweeping reforms, his growing army of supporters, his victories over fellow Romans. And now an Eastern queen walks with him, whispers with him, perhaps influences his plans. Fear finds shape in Cleopatra's shadow. The gossip spreads. Has Caesar been seduced? Will he make Cleopatra queen of Rome? Will their son Caesarion claim rule over both lands? Such questions ignite panic. Rome has never forgiven those who dream of monarchy. The very word king is poison, a reminder of tyranny, the memory Romans built their republic to destroy. Yet Cleopatra does not shrink. She attends public events. She receives visitors. Her presence is deliberate, confident, almost defiant. She knows she does not belong to Rome, but she also knows she does not need permission to stand in its halls. Caesar welcomes her not as ornament, but as equal in ambition. Their connection is not whispered passion in secret rooms. It is the visible bond of two rulers who see the world not as it is, but as it could be. But visions frighten those who cling to power. Meanwhile, Caesar pushes reforms that shake Rome further. Debt restructuring, expansion of citizenship, redistribution of land, calendar reform. He reshapes the state with the precision of a general cutting through ranks. To the poor and soldiers, he is savior. To aristocrats, he is a threat to centuries of privilege. They fear he aims not just to lead Rome, but to own it. Cleopatra watches the tension grow. She is no stranger to court intrigue. She reads faces, gestures, moods. She senses the cold glances, the tightened jaws when she enters a hall. Yet she remains, believing her bond with Caesar, political and emotional, stands stronger than the envy of small men. Then, a moment comes that shifts everything. During a public ceremony, Caesar is offered a crown. He refuses it, but not swiftly enough to silence doubt. Some cheer, believing him humble. Others see a performance, a man testing the waters, gauging the crowd's hunger for monarchy. Cleopatra sits among spectators, her expression unreadable. History has debated her reaction, But one thing is certain. To many Romans, the sight of Caesar and Cleopatra with their child becomes a symbol, a royal image in a republic. Whispers turn to warnings, allies become uneasy, enemies sharpen resolve. Then comes the 15th of March, the Ides. It begins quietly, like many days of consequence do. Cleopatra is not present when fate unfolds. She is likely in her residence, preparing for another day of tension and diplomacy. Caesar walks to the Senate, believing himself safe. He has forgiven too many enemies, trusted too many smiles. But daggers wait where loyalty should stand. Inside the Senate chamber, blades flash. Senators, men who once saluted him, dined with him, pledged service, strike again and again. Among them is Brutus, a man Caesar trusted as a son. The floor runs red. Caesar falls not in battle, not on a foreign field commanding legions, but in the heart of Rome, killed by the very system he sought to transform. When news reaches Cleopatra, the world she built cracks. There is no safety now. Rome becomes a storm with no anchor, and she is suddenly a foreign queen in a city drenched in political blood. She knows what comes next. Suspicion, blame, purges, retribution. Cleopatra does not wait for explanations. She prepares to leave, to return to Egypt before the shifting factions trap her in their chaos. With Caesar dead, Rome fractures. His grandnephew Octavian rises, claiming legacy. Mark Antony calls for loyalty and justice. The Senate pretends to restore peace while panic rots its halls. The Republic does not heal. It trembles, wounded and leaderless. Cleopatra departs swiftly, her son in her arms. The child many fear, many envy, and none can ignore. She leaves not as a defeated lover, but as a queen who must protect her throne and bloodline. The streets she walked with pride now watch her go in tense silence. The empire she influenced closes behind her, unstable and furious. As her ship cuts through Mediterranean waters, Cleopatra looks ahead, toward Alexandria, toward rule, toward survival. Her alliance with Caesar has elevated her, but it has also placed a target on her future. Rome has lost its greatest leader, and in the vacuum, ambition will flood like a tide. Cleopatra knows the game is far from over. History is moving, and she must move with it. Yet even now, in the calm between storms, one truth remains. Cleopatra did not fall with Caesar. She returns to Egypt stronger, wiser, marked by power and loss. Her story stretches forward, toward another Roman general, another bond of politics and passion, another chapter in the struggle between East and West. Stay with this story, because where Caesar's life ends, Cleopatra's greatest test begins. Soon, alliances will form, empires will tremble, and the world will discover that destiny rarely bows to death. It rises to meet it. Grief does not pause empires, and power does not mourn for long. As Cleopatra's ship sails back toward Egypt, the waves beneath her seem to carry both loss and resolve. Julius Caesar, ruler, reformer, partner in destiny, is gone. But Cleopatra cannot be consumed by sorrow. She is still queen, still mother, still guardian of a legacy that stretches beyond romance into the realm of history and empire. The Mediterranean wind carries whispers of chaos behind her. Caesar's assassination has not restored the Republic. Instead, it has cracked Rome open like a storm-struck temple. Factions clash, loyalties shift, and ambition scrambles to fill the void. Rome, leader of nations, suddenly looks uncertain, and uncertainty is the most dangerous currency in politics. Cleopatra reaches Alexandria not as a woman defeated, but as a ruler stepping back into the arena of power. Her first priority is stability. Egypt may have celebrated her return, but victory is delicate. She addresses her people, reasserts her sovereignty, and surrounds herself with loyal advisors. The palace stirs again with life, but the corridors feel colder without the shadow of the Roman general who once walked beside her. Yet Cleopatra does not allow sentiment to dictate her future. She has a child, Caesarion, and in him lies hope and risk. Her son represents a union that many in Rome would prefer to erase. She knows her enemies will grow bolder, so she does what she has always done best. She prepares. She strengthens her fleets. She negotiates with regional powers. She reinforces her authority among Egypt's priests and nobles. And she watches Rome, for Rome is not finished with her. It never truly was. Caesar's death has unleashed new contenders for power, and she knows one of them will eventually turn toward Egypt, either as ally or conqueror. Back in Italy, the great stage of history shifts. Mark Antony, Caesar's trusted friend and brilliant general, emerges as a voice demanding justice. He condemns the conspirators, stirring the citizens with fiery words. But another figure rises beside him, young, calculating, patient. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, a boy to some, a future master to others. Rome becomes a battleground between these two men, each claiming the right to fulfill Caesar's legacy. Cleopatra watches from across the sea, weighing their strengths, their ambitions, their needs. She knows Rome's future will decide hers. She must choose wisely, not with heart, but with strategy. Egypt cannot survive alone against an empire hungry for order and resources. She waits, she listens, she calculates. Her waiting is not passive. She builds alliances within her court, supports trade networks, and restores prosperity to the Nile Valley. Egypt flourishes under her guidance, a jewel shining even as Rome burns in political fire. This is Cleopatra at her most powerful, not as a lover by Caesar's side, but as a sovereign forging her own path through shifting empires. Still, she carries memories, not of a man, but of a shared vision. Caesar believed in destiny. Cleopatra believes in legacy. What they began together is not yet finished. Egypt must endure. Caesarion must survive. And Cleopatra must continue to bend history, not be broken by it. Then, fate moves again. Mark Antony gains momentum. Octavian rallies support. Rome edges toward civil war once more. And Antony, seeking resources and alliances, looks east. Toward Egypt. Toward Cleopatra. Their meeting will soon become legend. A second chapter of power joined with passion. Another attempt to reshape the world. But that is another story, another rise and fall. Another tale of loyalty and ambition played at the highest stakes. For now, the moment belongs to Cleopatra alone. Standing on the palace balcony overlooking Alexandria's harbor, the world behind her shifting like desert sand, the future ahead vast and uncertain. She has survived exile, war, scandal, and the assassination of the most powerful man of her age. And she remains standing, proud and unbroken. From here, history will often try to bind her identity to the men she knew. Caesar, Antony. But in truth, Cleopatra's power was never borrowed. It was earned through intelligence, diplomacy, and relentless will. She navigated empires, commanded armies, and shaped narratives that echo through centuries. Her life is not a love story, though love touched it. It is a testament to strategy wrapped in charisma, courage draped in silk, and leadership forged in struggle. Two worlds met in Alexandria. The queen of an ancient civilization and the general who remade Rome. They did not conquer the world together, as some feared they might. But they changed it. Caesar's death would end the Republic. Cleopatra's story would challenge the empire. Their son would stand as a symbol of worlds joined, and the threat of unity Rome could not accept. In the end, their legacy is not measured in romance but in consequence. Their alliance shifted the balance of ancient power, rewrote destinies, and laid foundations for the age of emperors. Empires rise and fall, but their names endure, not as myth or scandal, but as figures who dared to dream beyond borders. And as Cleopatra turns from the shore and walks back into her palace, the world watches, knowing her journey is far from over, and history has not heard her final act. If you're enjoying this series and want more stories where history becomes alive, where power, humanity, and destiny shape civilizations, then make sure to subscribe. Your support helps bring forgotten voices and dramatic turning points back into the world. Stay with us as we continue through the ancient world, because the story of Cleopatra is not yet finished, and neither is our journey through history.